Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sovereignpreneur Show, where we discuss building. And today we're going to build in public with you. We're going to share with you how we're building our business in El Salvador. So let's get started. I'm Jordan Herbs.
And I am Michael Ruiz.
And we got an exciting show, basically. We're going to tell you everything we're doing, our approach, our funnel, the lessons we're learning, our strategy, different mechanisms we're using, and a little bit of the history of how we learned about this stuff. And you'll get to know us better as well in the process. So you want to start us off, Mike?
Yeah. Well, I will just say that this show here is basically an open playbook to what we're doing, right? So I would say one of the main focuses right now is building out our digital information system, right? And this is going to include a course, an email course as a lead magnet. Then that's going to go into our offer, which is the Build in El Salvador kind of kickstart package, which includes a school community. We have in that school community, we have community calls, seminars, Q&A, workshops,
and an ultimate guide course with modules and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. And so the basic idea is, one of the things that we realize is, hey, we have an information advantage here, right? We have, we've been here for a year. We've networked. We've gone through the ropes. And so anyone a couple steps behind us, anyone who's thinking about El Salvador, wondering about El Salvador, what's it like over there? Well, we want to provide a basic kickstart, a fast track for them to get familiar with everything they need to know in order to make, informed decisions on whether that's either to come here and visit or whether that's to actually move themselves or their business here.
Yeah. And I just want to say, we didn't know we were going to be getting into that when we moved here. Let's say when you and I first met on Twitter, I think both of us were kind of headed in that direction, like the digital information economy, like, hey, how can we provide value? We're both doing kind of coaching stuff and really trying to build out these same systems that we're building out now for a completely different purpose after coming together, collaborating for a while.
Yes. And it made sense for us to do this together because we realized we had all the pieces already here as far as like a Build in El Salvador product or ecosystem. It was just a matter of putting them together, where my coaching business, for instance, I didn't have all the pieces together, plus the information advantage wasn't there. I think just us being here provides a certain amount of credibility and legitimacy that I think really speaks well to this particular offer. And so I saw it as a way to build a digital information business with all the pieces already there, instead of focusing on like my coaching business, and then go through those ropes, learn everything we need to learn. And then we can just take those principles and apply them to our separate endeavors later on.
Yeah. And for anyone new to the Build in El Salvador, Sovereignpreneur, Sovereignty Studios scene, which is us, we've been making content for a while now. But we've been hosting retreats here in El Salvador. Michael kind of became Mr. El Salvador on Twitter about a year ago now. Back in January, your content started blowing up, which I think was kind of a surprise. And so we've really been getting to know us. We moved here. And so we finally realized, wait a minute, we have all the pieces here. We just need to put them together, the building blocks, the whole funnel, and we're going to have a business here. Now, we'll discuss today, we'll see how successful that business could be. There's a lot of assumptions involved, but so far we're following the what do they call it? The rules of the trade, not the tricks of the trade, but we're following the basic guidelines.
The playbook.
The playbook that anyone from the online entrepreneur gurus to Alex Hormozy would say, like, this is how you build a successful business. And it starts with finding the right demographic. It's got to be growing. It's got to be a growing market. And so the first real assumption we're making here is that more and more people are going to want to flock to El Salvador for all the reasons that we outline all the time about freedom country, Bitcoin country, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of like the foundation of everything that we go, everywhere we go from here.
Well, and that assumption came from just the interest that we were getting from all our content that we were generating, right? And so we realized, holy cow, like people are reaching out to us, asking us all types of questions about El Salvador. And so we started, thinking, how can we capture that? And so I think we created a newsletter first, and then we started putting community calls together. And all of this was organic. There wasn't really a plan in place. It was just a lot of it was reactionary, but reactionary in a very productive manner. Like we were looking on how to like actually provide value to people and package that value in a way where people would find it helpful. And so it's led us all the way here.
And so I think one reason, so we started, I think it was March, you started the email list. I think it was March. And just to say, we've got 500 people in there now. And I think we have a goal of making 1,000 by March. We got 2 more months, but I think we can do it. And maybe for some industries, that's a low number, but for others, maybe that's a high number. I would say, it's pretty impressive, really. I mean, there's not many people trying to bring people to El Salvador. So to your point, though, is we came in here trying to provide value. And I think that's a lot different from most of the Bitcoin space, because I think it's mostly Bitcoiners that are interested in El Salvador coming into our ecosystem. But we were kind of not coming from the Bitcoin content creation space, which I think is much more about building your brand, becoming an influencer, someone that goes to talk at conferences. We were more coming at it from the creator economy. Like, hey, let's provide value. Let's be entrepreneurs here, which I think we start to see more and more in the Bitcoin space, but not as many Bitcoiners building their brands online are really trying to provide value in the same way that we're coming at it, which is, hey, here's a free email course. Hey, here's a paid course. Hey, here's a high ticket retreat, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times that's just like, hey, here's my brand. Here's my opinion, my perspective. It's really valuable. I go on podcasts. You listen to me. And that's kind of where it ends for a lot of Bitcoiner brands.
Yeah. For me, it was actually really important to build something in which I wasn't like the key man involved in it. And I think that's what we're getting to now. I think originally, when we put on these retreats, we were relying on pure promotion, right? Creating content to find people on the internet that wanted to go to our retreat. And there wasn't a process involved. There wasn't a marketing funnel involved or a sales funnel involved. It was just pure promotions and ads.
It was brute force, and it was organic content. It was just like, here's a thread, and then twice in the thread, hey, check out our retreat. It's thousands of dollars, but hey, we're going to tell you about it here on Twitter.
Yeah. And so there was no nurturing of an audience or anything like that. And so one of the things that I came to realize is that that's exhausting. It's very time consuming. And you can burn out quickly.
Yes, but it is kind of crazy that we sold tickets. It still worked. And yeah, it's not sustainable in the long run, but it really validated this effort. People want it.
Yeah, what I realized is that, okay, we got something here. Like people wanting to come, like, listen, to pack up your bags and fly whatever amount of hours, to come to El Salvador, to come to one of our retreats, it's a big ask. And then on top of that, to pay the price tag we were asking, which was, I think, around $3,000. So I was like, oh, okay. With very little history behind us, with very little marketing behind us, we were able to sell out these retreats to the point where they were sustainable. And so it was now a matter of figuring out how to get this process more optimized and streamlined in a way where we don't have to brute force, where all that energy can be utilized for different purposes. And the way to do that was to build out the sales funnel.
Yeah. And I think one thing we learned, or I personally learned in all the sales calls we took for the retreats, is that for the people that ended up coming, it was a no-brainer. They saw the retreat page, they saw what they get, they saw some testimonials. Like, this is a no-brainer because I'm interested in El Salvador and I want to go figure it out. This is 5 days where I get to figure it out. So it was a no-brainer. But we had to put all that effort into the marketing, into, like we said, the brute force. Whereas if we just have an ecosystem, we bring people into the funnel, it's much softer, it's smoother, almost passive to an extent. Now, obviously, there's still action we need to take. Oh, a retreat's coming up, we do a product launch sequence. But to bring people in where we can build trust with them, they can have a general understanding of everything, they can already start building a network, so they can come down here to our retreat or to something else and be ready to go, be way more equipped.
Yeah, and already feel like they know us too. I think that's a big aspect of it, because what we're trying to create here goes more than a service or a product. I think it goes also into the realm of actual community, right? And so when they come into our ecosystem and they get to interact with us on the community calls, and they get to interact with us on the posts, and they watch our content and so forth, like there's already a relationship being formed and established. So they know exactly what they're getting into when they book a retreat. And all of this goes into, like, hopefully, when we put together a retreat and when we list it, it's we already got, our client base already wanting to come because they've been in there in the ecosystem, following us and interacting with us. And so for us, it's just like, yeah, that's a lot better of a clientele, I think, for our retreats than just, random people on the internet.
Yeah, where it's like we don't need to do a crazy sales call to sell anything because it's a no-brainer. These
Yeah.
people are there, they've been hanging out, they know us, the price is right, the dates and time are right. Like, okay, let's do it.
Now, I touched on this at the beginning, but let's go into it in detail here. What do you think? Like, just talking about the different parts of the funnel
Sure, let's do it.
we'll talk about the top of the funnel, right? And I'll start it off, and then you can just chime in with whatever thoughts you have, and then we'll just move on to the next one if you want to take that one or so forth. But top of the funnel is content. And I think this is the future for any, personal brands, or even just the future of marketing in general for any businesses, I think, is organic content creation. Unless maybe you're a mom and pop's, like, restaurant or something like that. But, like, in terms of where your personality is involved, organic content is going to be like the top of our funnel. So people will find out about us through the content we generate, whether that's threads on X, or whether that's videos, that lifestyle videos or blog videos or behind the scenes that we produce over here in El Salvador,
Or just these YouTube podcasts.
or even the podcasts are turning out to be a real connection point for us and our audience. And so from there, right, we've put together a free offer, right? And you want to go into that?
Yeah, well, the Beginner Blueprint to El Salvador, it's basically a 5-day email course. So you just sign up, put your email in, and you get an email every day. And you're free to fast forward. So if you want to do it all in one day, you can, which several people have, which was good confirmation.
Not just several people. I mean, we did like a soft launch with the email course. We basically put it up when it wasn't even ready. And we've been, optimizing it along the way. But within that soft launch, I think we had 200 people sign up for the email course around that.
And that's first week.
Yeah. And that's the first week. And so that's 60 people, I think, were like hitting the fast forward button. Like hey,
right away finished.
Yeah, this wasn't enough. Give me more now.
Mm-hmm. So how a lead magnet like this works at the next level of the funnel is you solve a problem that the market knows that they have. But by the end of it, you're introducing a new problem that they didn't realize they had. And then that new problem is essentially solved in your offer, a paid offer. So that's more or less what we do in this blueprint. We explain, problems, concerns people have, places to check out. What else do we cover in the blueprint?
Tips. I mean, so the idea of the free offer is to provide a bunch of value. When it comes to the problem that they have, hey, where do I start learning about El Salvador? What information do I look to? What facts do I need to know? It's like all of that's in our free course. Yeah. So it's just a ton of value. And then through that, we're saying, hey, now that you know all of this stuff, now why don't you go a step further? Why don't you actually join our community? Why don't you actually get into the information that is actionable, in which you can already start building your life here? Why don't you come to our community calls and start engaging? All of this is set up in a way where it alleviates so much time, money, effort, mental energy, right? All of this stuff where it took Jordan and I multiple trips down here to El Salvador to figure out.
Essentially everything we're offering is a year's worth of our experience.
Yeah.
It's been a year.
Exactly. And our network. And you get like also, for us, one of the things we realized was that we're getting so many questions from so many people. It's going to drain us financially and mentally and just energetically to reply to everyone. So why don't we bring everyone into a community room, right? A Zoom room, and let's handle everyone's questions there. So it gives you an opportunity to interact with me and Jordan and all the people that we have in our community who are already living here or establishing businesses here. So we're really like honing in on this kind of hive mind, right? To answer every question or concern that someone would have about relocating or establishing themselves here in El Salvador.
Yeah. So the funnel starts on, with content, wherever platform it lies. And then we got the lead magnet, this beginner blueprint, which is a lot of free value. Then, hey, come check out the Build in El Salvador Kickstarter, which is essentially a community with lots of little things attached, including the virtual workshops, community calls, a course, and access to our network of people in there so you can come ask questions. Now, this is a little bit of a tricky part because we are getting a lot of responses in the email course of people asking more questions. And we're like, hey, this is where, you got to just, you got to go into the course now. And this is something we're still, I think, exploring actively. So there's no like conclusive statements I'm trying to make here. But I have found it interesting to think about the offer itself. So this Build in El Salvador Kickstarter, we're essentially it's going to be in the realm of $200, $250, something like that. Now, a community is generally something you pay monthly for. But if you think about the evolution of like from idea to, hey, maybe I should move to El Salvador, to moving to El Salvador, let's say it takes a year, you got 12 months. And at that price range, you're paying about $20 a month. And then maybe after a year, you might not need it anymore. Or you might be here and you're successful and you still want to check in because you've built a network. But what I think has been interesting about this pricing model that we've done is instead of just saying, hey, you pay this much and you get this much amount of time, and kind of acting like there's some scarcity around, how the duration of time you're allowed to be in based on this much money. We're just removing that. It's like, no, you get lifetime access because who knows how long you're going to need it. Even if you just need it for a few months, it's well worth the value of the information you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, for the price, the other thing, we wanted it to be an impulse purchase, right? Where anyone just mildly interested in possibly visiting or relocating to El Salvador would find it valuable because, you can spend hours, right? Hundreds of hours researching on the internet, and you can spend all this time and all this energy. But like $150 purchase to do away with a lot of that, man, I think that's so worth it. Like we priced it in a way where the value received is, 10 times, maybe 100 times, depending, like if you factor in all the costs that are associated with travel. Now, granted, I think you do have to travel to El Salvador to really, gain a wider perspective. And that's what our retreats are for. But if you're just thinking about it and you want to just fast forward that process, this is priced in a way where it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, if you're coming from like LA, $250 is a round trip, like a good price for a round trip ticket. And that's not counting everything else you got to pay for when you're here. So to be able to do that, and then maybe just take one research trip after, and then you come, and because you've already joined the community, there's meetups, there's events, there's people you can go meet. And you know which places to go to meet the right people. So you're not wasting any time when you do take that one trip. So you're saving time, you're saving energy, money, mental bandwidth, emotional bandwidth.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're really trying to figure out is how to communicate that. How to communicate that value because $150 or $250, whatever it is that we land on, it's still a significant purchase for a lot of people, right? And but if we can communicate that value very effectively, and especially to the right person, then it becomes a no-brainer.
Yeah, so then that leads us to the lowest part of our funnel, which is the high ticket offers, which is the retreat or the masterminds or maybe even private tours. We've done a couple in a way. We're trying to navigate that. But basically we go from free to a few $100s to a few $1,000 pretty quickly. I mean, maybe it depends, might not, most people might not even end up at the high ticket offer, but it's there. So it's, hey, learn about El Salvador from afar, or hey, 10x that price and, come learn about El Salvador here with us.
And again, in a way where we take a lot of the hassle, a lot of the time, a lot of the energy that it would take to, come down here and explore El Salvador. We package it up nice in our retreats, and we've gotten nothing but good feedback on it. So, the other thing is that we know these are all good products. We know that these are all, when we receive feedback, I mean, I think we've gotten average like 9 out of 10 in our reviews, So in terms of helping someone who's interested in El Salvador, I think, we wanted to target both people who are just thinking about it, who just, are interested in the low ticket purchase, and then also people who are ready to check it out. We wanted to also help them out with our retreats and our masterminds and so forth.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue into our challenges and the lessons we're learning. I think one of the big things we're dealing with now is selling it. So we know these are good offers. We've had validation from people. We've got the social proof even, but yeah, maybe we haven't had that many visitors to our sales page yet, but still it's like we need to communicate this in a way where the person who this is for can know without a doubt, okay, this is for me. Yeah. And so we're still in that journey right now.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where I think creating something that is creating a business that operates like as a flywheel where everything's a positive feedback loop just takes time, right? And it takes us, consistently working on little things every day. So one of the things that we did is we broke down everything into kind of like a build order. And this is something that we got from the Ship 30 guys, where, we analyze, okay, what are all the processes in this sales funnel / marketing funnel? And what is it, what are the elements that are necessary to build these out? And we basically just put a checklist together, and then Jordan and I get together, if not every day, it's like every other day. And we knock things out. We like today, for instance, we met and we got emails done. So in our email sequence, there's the free offer, right? Which is the email guide, the beginner blueprint. And then after that, there's a hard pitch sequence, which is basically saying, hey, listen, you received all this value for free. And we are, what we want to do is basically pressure them to buy our to buy our Kickstart package, to join our community. And it's one of those things where it's either, join our community or unsubscribe, kind of.
We're going to be so annoying that you're either going to really want this or you're going to GTFO.
Yeah. And that's okay. Like one of the things that I'm focusing on is not the vanity metrics, but also the, how many subscribers we got and stuff like that on our email list, but like more so like how many people are we converting? And look, we're speaking about this from a business perspective right now, but behind all of this is like ulterior motives that go beyond just business, right? Like we want to bring our tribe down here. We want to bring like-minded individuals down here to help build Bitcoin country, to help create an economy, a flourishing Bitcoin economy down here. So
sorry to interrupt, but that makes me wonder if telling that story could be important to do in the hard pitch sequence, because we're doing this hard pitch sequence to get you into the community. Sure, you have to pay a couple $100 to get there, but because we're trying to build a tribe here. We're trying to attract a tribe and we want to do some epic stuff together, but the right people have to get here. So in a way, it's like this funnel, it's like trickled down to where, you got to pay to play. Then you get to know us and you do a retreat. It's like, cool. Then you're part of a tribe. We have a few people that came to our retreat that are part of the tribe, and I went and visited one the other day, we had a barbecue because he came back with his family.
Same thing, same thing with Scott and Judy. Again, they came to our retreat, and this is what we're starting to see is like, this is becoming like an ecosystem. And it's something that we ultimately want to bring into like an actual property too, like a little compound area, a little sanctuary where people that resonate with us and our values and our messaging can always feel like they have a place, always feel like they have a second home.
So that's what I wonder, because it's not really in the Ship 30 framework so much. But if we're telling that story, like, hey, this is beyond just taking your money. We know you want to get to know El Salvador and we have a product, you can pay us for it. But really, like, for the right people, we're trying to build a community here, which is why we want you to join. So that's just an off topic or a tangential thought I just had.
No, I think so. One of the things that I've had in mind, and we've talked about it briefly, Jordan, but I'll bring it up here and we can go more into detail about it. But we are building all of this quickly, and we're using frameworks, and we're taking we're taking language from basically swipe files, right? And we're just constructing it. But I think we got to go back and revamp all our emails to really tell that story. Yeah, because like I said, this isn't just an information product / ecosystem. This is a connection that we're trying to make with people as well. And so I think the story element is very important in all of that, in building that trust, building that confidence, and building that connection.
And I think this is one of the big lessons we're learning here is, yes, we're putting all the building blocks together. We're building out the system, but like you said, we're using templates, we're leveraging AI to make things faster, things like that. But then once it's all there, yeah, we got to go refine. And it's kind of like this cycle of build, test, polish, build again, test, polish, keep going, optimize. And then eventually one day we'll have the system working where we're converting the right amount of people. We're not going to convert everyone, and that's fine, but we're converting who should be converting. And then the question is, do we need to scale it on our own, more content, more ads, or have we maxed out the demographic because there's just only so many people that are aware of El Salvador? Do we go to new platforms to try to say, hey, you might not be aware of Bitcoin or El Salvador, but you see the world going to shit. Hey, come check out El Salvador with this free blueprint. And so there's like new problems to solve with each step of the way.
Yeah. So the way I see it is that we're building an engine, right? And it's been really cool to build out the engine and already see parts of it working, like the pistons firing off, and that's what we've seen with the email course, right? And so I see it in two parts, right? There's the building out of the engine, which we're doing, and then every once in a while we'll throw a post out there in order to generate engagement and see that engine actually run and test out components to it. But once this engine is built, we're building it in a way where it's just everything's a positive feedback loop. And it's kind of like, besides just maintenance, and you could think of this as a car analogy, right? Like just the maintenance that you would do on your car. You don't maintain your car every day.
You don't build it every day.
Yeah, right? Like the car's built and the engine runs, and then you come back to it and maintain it every once in a while. Once we get to that point, then it's all about putting fuel into the engine, and that fuel is content, right? So the way I see it right now is that we are in the building of the engine phase, building and testing, and then optimizing here and there. But we're going to come to a point where this thing runs on its own, and all we have to do is put fuel in it. Does that make sense?
Totally. And I think this is where our, I guess, greater intentions and missions kind of diverge from the typical path of, like, I don't know, Alex Hormozy or the Ship 30 guys that just say, hey, find a business, stick to it, and make a shit ton of money. Do everything you can to keep scaling it. I think what we're really trying to do is, make money, get sustainable, but once again, we're trying to build a community here, bring a tribe here, do something on real land, build a life, build a village, live out the Renaissance, create the low time preference culture we've always dreamed of. And so in that way, at some point, yeah, we're gonna veer off the path of that normal route. Because I even look at it where it's like, do I want to come to El Salvador content all the time? Do I want to write threads about El Salvador all the time? Well, not really. But do I want to gather a community of like-minded people so me and my kids can live in harmony with nature as a crew, doing things together? Like, that is probably the biggest dream one could have in the modern world.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, to live around like-minded people that are actually productive and doing things, and every day is a new adventure, and you're building out cool projects is awesome.
Yeah. And money is just like an afterthought.
Yeah.
It's not the driver of your life. Like I go to work every day to make money so I can pay my bills and do this. Like, no, it's like the money's there, it's coming in, but we're really building, we're trying to really like flourish as humans, just living.
Yeah. One of the things I'm realizing is, this basically just becomes like a business to fuel our community here. And we have to build it in a way where it's sustainable. Like, this is why we have to charge for things, because it costs money to operate, just like it costs money to operate a car or maintain a car, right? It costs money to operate a business. So we need to make sure it's sustainable. So this is where, anything that we do, I think in order for it to be sustainable has to be productive. And then money is the easiest way to measure that productivity. And so that's why, that's why we have to have a business component to it. But again, like you were saying, this also goes into fulfillment in other realms of your life besides just business. And this is one of the things with this specific business that I'm realizing, it is a mix between business and lifestyle that we're doing here. And so, I mean, it's going to be cool. We've already seen, like I said, the progress of it a little bit, but it's going to be really cool to see whether this actually catches on and people are actually finding value in it and purchasing, purchasing access to the community and all the bonuses that come with that. And then whether they're actually, flying down here to participate in our retreats as well and stuff like that. Like those are all going to be metrics in which I'm going to keep an eye on to determine whether this is something that's viable. Because that's another thing. I mean, this whole process in itself is so worthwhile. Like I'm learning a ton in terms of marketing, in terms of sales, in terms of content generation. I'm just learning
infrastructure.
And so regardless of whether this is a success or not, it's been worthwhile skills that we can take and apply out to anything.
Right. I mean, this is, like I said earlier, this is what you and I have been trying to do since we met. I mean, for me, that's almost 2 years. I've been imagining building an online business like this. Now, I had a different empire in mind, but now we're doing this and that's cool. But the experience is invaluable more than anything.
Yeah.
Before we get too far, I wanted to bring up the flywheel real quick, as far as like metrics go as well, of like, is this working? I mean, first off, we want to automate as much as this business as possible. Like you mentioned earlier, we don't want a single source of failure and like the key man risk. Like we want to be able to have a business that can operate without us.
Can I jump in real quick with that point?
Yeah.
And then I'll let you take over. Yes. And one of the things that we're doing is we're building it in a way where we're trying to automate everything as well as, outsource components in which, take a lot of time and energy from the actual building phase of things. For instance, like the retreat planning. All right. The retreats, to plan a retreat takes so much upfront time and energy, not only like the week of the retreat, which is one of the heaviest, but prior to that, just the coordination that you have to do with vendors and all of that stuff and setting things up. And then afterwards is closing all the accounts and so forth. So when you look at it, it's like a retreat is like 3 weeks worth of work. And if we can find someone to organize and manage the retreat, I mean, that frees you and I up to do so much more high leverage tasks that actually move the business forward, like fueling the funnel with content creation.
Right. And we had the same conversation regarding Sovereignty Studios as a media production house, where the Max and Stacy Invitational was a 1-day thing, a 2-day thing, but it takes a week beforehand for pre-production. And then essentially a week after, we're finally finishing the deliverables. It's like, it's a 2-week thing for a 1 or 2 day gig. And that takes 2 weeks out of our momentum of whatever else we're doing.
So going back to what you're saying and how we're building it, we're trying to build it in a way where it's as automated and outsourced as possible, where there isn't just a key man, and also in a way where, like, let's say, who knows what happens, but like, we want to be able to always sell the business if that's what where our path leads as well.
Yeah, right? we gathered our tribe, we've got all the people, and now we have the Citadel land. Okay, we don't need the business anymore.
Yeah, so to build it out already with with that in mind, without a key man. And because here's the thing, when you buy a business and there's a key man, if that key man isn't coming in the sale of the business too, right, isn't involved in the business after the sale, it becomes less attractive, because like, why am I going to buy this business? Because if, you know, Jordan drops out or Michael drops out, there's no business anymore.
Yeah, so Hormozy says is like, if the founder can take a 2-month break and everything still operates fine, then you know you're good.
Yeah.
But otherwise, that's really hard. Like, who has the passwords? Oh, hey, the whole payment system broke because the manager left. We don't know how to take payments.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important. And so another inspiration from Hormozy is our little testimonial flywheel, which we've only been doing so far with the free blueprint.
Can you don't have to go back to me, but can you just explain what a flywheel is?
Yeah, so a flywheel is kind of like a counterpart to a funnel. A funnel is like kind of 2D. A flywheel is like, well, it's also 2D, I guess.
I would just call it a feedback loop, right?
I guess, yeah, you call it a feedback loop, but it's really more about, in my understanding of a flywheel, which is not going to be the best explanation, a flywheel is great for community-driven businesses. A funnel is just like, hey, get to my high-ticket offer. A flywheel is more like, hey, like, this is helping you, now you can help the community, and like it goes around in a circle, like a feedback loop. And so that's a totally butchered explanation, but as an example, so we have this little system with the El Salvador blueprint. You do the blueprint, and then at the end we say, hey, we would love your thoughts, would you leave us a review? But that's kind of like, okay, how many people are going to do that? Probably not many. But if you say, hey, like, maybe we'll send you $10 if you leave us a review. Kind of shady, right? Like, oh, we're paying for reviews. But Hormozy inspired, if you look at a restaurant or a massage parlor, hey, did you have a good time? We'd love if you left a review. And if you do, we'll give $50 to whoever serviced you. And so that way it's not like a business being all scummy, going like, hey, we just want to know, hey, we're gonna give a gift to whoever. And so what we're saying is, hey, if you leave a review, we're going to give $10 to Veronica, our housekeeper, who has been onboarded onto Bitcoin. And because of that, we can automatically send $10 to her Bitcoin wallet as soon as that review is received. Yeah. Which is pretty cool. So that's an example of a flywheel scenario here.
Yeah. And we're trying to kind of build these out throughout our system, where it's like, you know, the positive reviews then lead to more people signing up for our free beginner's blueprint. More people take our beginner's blueprint. They want to help out Veronica. We want to help out Veronica. That's the other thing too. We're trying to create win-win situations all across the board within our ecosystem. And so we're really like honed in on pinpointing those out and trying to create systems around that. Right. So they want to help out Veronica. They leave a review. We benefit from it. And then that review goes into the landing page, which then again circles back and gives more people confidence that this blueprint is, you know, valuable. So they sign up, and then the whole process starts again.
Here is a quick introduction from webfx.com. Shoppers, customers generally harbor skepticism regarding outbound marketing. So inbound marketing strategies like the flywheel principle are becoming increasingly popular. With flywheel marketing, you create customer-centric marketing strategies that convince and empower the customer to push your flywheel along, increasing loyalty and encouraging word-of-mouth recommendations. So basically, a flywheel is looking at it where, like, instead of a funnel where you have to feed it with all this content, you're saying, hey, this offer is so good, why don't you tell people about it? And the more people you tell about it, the more rewards you're going to get in some way, shape, or form. And then more loyalty is built. So it just is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so these are the cool, like, little marketing tactics that we've been learning. And it's been really cool to also see human action, you know, like when people enter our free beginner's blueprint, like there's all these little call to actions. And so you can see what people are clicking, and you can see them working their way through our ecosystem. And it's just really cool to see, like, hey, if you direct people in a way and present that direction in a way that, you know, they're going to perceive value from following what you say, people will actually take those steps. And it's been really cool to see.
Yeah, that's, I think, another fun part about is just exploring influencing human behavior, you know, at a very small scale, but that's how it starts, right? Because then once you have a huge audience or whatever it is, then you're kind of put in that position with everything you create and publish online.
Yeah. So in terms of, one of the other things that we realized through other people realizing it and then telling us about it, aka Hormozy, is that people consume content in all different types of ways, right? And so a lot of our written content we're going to be repurposing into visual format. So and then this also leads into them getting to know us better and know our personalities better, because there could be people signing up to our free beginner blueprint who are not aware of Michael and Jordan. They just came across the website from somewhere, right? And so, within our email, we're also going to embed a video of us talking about the actual content. So some people can consume it in video format and some people can just read through it. So whatever your preference is, we want to be able to speak to that.
Yeah, that's another very strong tip from $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozy, is if you're going to give value away, especially if it's free, give it in every possible medium, the audio book, ebook, podcast, whatever the format is. Well, you have to pay for the physical book, but give it away in every possible medium, because everyone's got, I don't like listening to books. I like reading books. I like listening to podcasts. I don't like watching YouTube videos, right? So those are my core preferences. And if something I'm offering for free out there isn't available for my own preferences, then why would I assume everyone else is going to want it?
Exactly.
Want to consume it.
Yeah. So, these are little tactics and tricks that we've been learning, and it's been fun applying them, and seeing the results as we apply them. So
definitely.
Where are we at now in terms of then our whole system?
Well, the system's live. We obviously are refining a lot of we have to refine the sales page, the sales copy, things like that. The offer we have it's essentially always a work in progress. That's another interesting part about this, is right now we have it for sale for $150, but we plan on raising that price once it's more populated inside the community. There's still $150 worth of value in there easily. I mean, it's lifetime value, just these workshops and calls alone that we do. But that said, we got to continue building. And then essentially what we need to do is all those 100 people that have been grandfathered in for free, we need to get their response. We need to get their perspectives, some testimonials from them, their reviews, which can encourage others, a social proof. Like, oh yeah, this is really good. I recommend anyone, blah, 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 blah. I was in this position. Now I'm in El Salvador thanks to this package, whatever. It reinforces people's decision to buy.
Yeah.
Encourages.
Yeah. And, I'm excited. I'm excited to already. So I'm already super happy with the response we've been getting, but I'm really excited to start fueling this up, And so I think we got another couple of weeks of fine tuning the engine, so to say. And then, really, I think we're pushing for a campaign launch here in a month and a half or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like we want to be, we don't want to announce the offer too much, like it's there in the blueprint and stuff and people can be aware of it. But yeah, it would be really cool to do a solid product launch, and not to say we'll make a ton of money, which we might, but really just to go through the ropes. Like I've done one before, but I just kind of improvised, and now we have a lot more research and information behind us, proven methods behind us that we can just follow and say, okay, let's see what happens. Let's do this.
And yeah, it's like anything, repetition, right? You just get better at it, right? It's just practice. And so I would imagine, here's something that fell into our lap. We realize, okay, we have an information advantage. We're in El Salvador. People are asking us questions already. We already have that notoriety and that credibility. We put on retreats. And so, it's just what we went with, right? Because it just fell into our lap. But like you said, even if this product launch doesn't bring us a lot of money, to put an email campaign for a product launch together is going to provide us with a ton of experience and understanding for the next product that we release.
Right. Not to mention it builds the infrastructure for it. Yeah. So the more we build, the less in the future we have to do. I mean, even all this stuff, we have ambitions to to do more digital information products. And like the Sovereignpreneur, I think we're probably more passionate about than building in El Salvador, but building is the key term here. And so all of this that we're building can be duplicated. And then, you change the text, you change the product, you fix everything up. But everything we're doing can be replicated, which once again, reps. The more we do it, the better it'll get.
Yeah. And in terms of Sovereignpreneur, yeah, I think that's where both you and I are really going to excel as far as like bringing our skills and talent to an actual ecosystem and product that we, feel very much like ingrained within our personality, right? Like entrepreneurship, sovereignty are two things that I think are the foundation for a lot of our thinking, right? And so building all this for building El Salvador and trying to provide value for people is giving us a ton of experience for that product launch and that ecosystem to be, I think, a huge success. And in terms of Sovereignpreneur, we're building all of this. We're being transparent. We're building in public. For one, to find people who want to collaborate. For two, to maybe inspire other people to go on their own like little journeys. And one of the things that we're doing with Sovereignpreneur is like, even though that's off in a distance, maybe 6 months from now, we're already kind of starting that out within building El Salvador. So one of the things I was thinking is like, okay, there's a lot of people who are, aligned with what El Salvador is doing, but they have no plans on moving here or relocating here or even visiting here, but they like what we're doing. They like the path that El Salvador is on. So within our Building El Salvador ecosystem, for people that are really want to already jump on the Sovereignpreneur train and learn how to market, learn how to sell, learn how to create content and create digital information products, we're already going to have a little segment in our Building El Salvador. So it's not only Building El Salvador, it's not only for people interested, but if you want to already join in the building process, you can by joining Building El Salvador.
Well, not to mention, that's another big pain point of our target demographic. They want to move to El Salvador, but they don't know how they'll make a living, make wages. And so, hey, this is how you get started online. And I think that also goes to show with what we're building, proving that we're building it, and ideally we make some decent money, but really the point is to demonstrate that we can build it. Yeah, that we've learned, we've gone through the ropes, and then sure, we can build more, but also just support others in getting themselves started, because that's really what being a Sovereignpreneur is all about.
Yeah, I mean, taking agency, right, over your own life, being able to be the architect and the director of which way you take your life. All of that requires resources. And I think, entrepreneurship is a key part of that. And if we can take what we've learned, package it up and help other people on their way, I think that's super fulfilling. And it's along the lines of the work that I always thought I'd be doing.
Right. Me too. And so that said, building El Salvador, this whole ecosystem we're building is really important. I mean, it's not just because it's going to be a valuable product for people and it's going to support people to come down, but it's kind of what we might just have in the background for years. If we stay in El Salvador, and we build this, like you said, the maintenance isn't every day. All we got to do is give it fuel. Then, yeah, we're just making content by living our life here, doing Sovereignpreneur, and building El Salvador is in the background, fueling everything.
Yeah, that's the other part, right? Like, since we're building this out in a way where it's like autonomous in a way, right? Like with just regular maintenance required here and there, this can be something that we always have in the background running for anyone interested in El Salvador. It doesn't, we don't have to sell it. We don't have to give up on it. It's just a business that runs without much input once we build it out.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what could make it valuable, like for selling it or whatever also. And that said, for Sovereignpreneur purposes, eventually once this is working, it's one of my dreams, and I want to do this building in public as well, making content about it. But I want to take everything we've built with third-party services and do it on self-hosted services. Our whole newsletter campaigns, everything, like eventually port that over to and that's hard.
Yeah.
That is not something that's often done, but that's to me what a Sovereignpreneur is.
Yeah. So this is interesting because we are in a transition phase, and they talk about this in the sovereign individual, but you can just already kind of see this happening in real time. But we're going from like an analog world to a digital world, and that's been happening for the last 20, 30 years, but now it's really ramping up, right? And the predators out there, the predator class out there is not sitting back idly and letting this happen on its own, right? They're trying to build systems that control and limit people's ability to be free, to interact in the economy, to communicate with one another, and so forth. And so we're really in a crucial time period where information and data and how that's going to be used is going to determine a lot about how human civilization evolves. And the systems that we build, and the third parties that we use, and the technology which we build upon are going to be it's increasingly going to be important to be cognizant of it, because right now we're just giving so much data and so much information to who knows who, right? Like, to these companies that could have nefarious intentions involved, and so I think what you're doing here, Jordan, by trying to port all of this into self-hosted open source software, I think is the path that Sovereignpreneur takes. It's in the name, right? It's like, not only build a business that allows you to live the life that you want to live, but build it in a way where you truly own it. That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's like one of the thesis in read, write, own is like email is one protocol that hasn't been co-opted by corporate interests. Mm-hmm. Like email is still there. There's not many, right? Like he claims RSS failed, and he claims blockchain is going to become a new one. But what's interesting about using ConvertKit or MailChimp or whatever is the argument always goes, even in the creator economy, build your audience as an email list, because you could be deleted off of X or YouTube or whatever at any time and have no recourse. And that's just how it works. But what we don't think about is that on ConvertKit, if you're running your whole business with sequences like we are and all this automations, like if ConvertKit kicks you off, sure, you can export your emails, which is number one. Great. Keep those emails. And you lose everything you built. That's what I mean, the email list. But you lose everything you built. Think about all the hours we put into these sequences and all that. And imagine if they just deleted our account. That would suck.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been diving deep into it. As I research Nostr, I'm going to be speaking on a panel, Plan B panel over here in El Salvador, I think January 30th. So I've been doing a deep dive into kind of, our data, how it's being used, how it's being siphoned, how we're being controlled, how we're being basically farmed for information, how it's fueling these algorithms that then can like predict our behavior, that know us almost better than we know ourselves. And then with that, we can be manipulated in all types of ways, And so it's pretty wild, like once you start digging in, especially with AI coming, where all these computations are going to be able to be done at a moment's notice, and whole, portfolios. I don't know if that's the right word, but maybe a dossier is a better word, where like you're going to be able to be profiled in a second. Someone could tell, everything about you from all the information sources they have with AI, and just know everything that, everything about you. It's pretty wild. And so, yeah, man, this is definitely, it's in the back of our minds to build in a way that's self-sovereign.
Yeah, and I think that could be a good topic for another show.
Yeah.
There's a lot to say there, especially like, I've just been exploring, like, so they can profile me at a moment's notice. Does it really matter? That's one question, just a question. The second question is, they can profile me, but will they be able to manipulate me? Or can I stay sovereign over my own headspace, right? That's the next question. We're out of time here. But we have one question on YouTube, and Nelson is asking, where do you guys see El Salvador in about 5 more years?
Man, you know what? Just like we're in a transition phase with the analog to digital world, El Salvador is in transitional phase too, and it's going to be interesting how this place evolves. I'm here because I'm betting on El Salvador evolving in a way that allows for human flourishing and prosperity to emerge in a way that we've never seen before. So that's what I'm betting on. But you know, it's still very much up in the air from my perspective.
Yeah, I think 5 years is hard to tell because I mean that's pretty much when Bukele's term will be up.
Yeah.
So I think things will continue in this direction at least until Bukele is out of office, and 4 more years from now when he is out, like that's a lot of progress. That's a lot of building to be made. I think Tether moving here is huge. I mean, just an operation of that magnitude, of that financial magnitude coming here speaks to the trust that big money is starting to have in El Salvador. So I don't know what exactly the question of where do we see El Salvador in about 5 years, but I see it continuing on this trajectory. Hopefully it doesn't keep getting more expensive because it's getting kind of ridiculous, but it's a small place. The housing is scarce, I guess. But yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah. And just to close off, I do want to say, guys, if you're enjoying our content, if you're liking our content, give us a like and a comment and engage with us as much as you can. We really appreciate it. You know, even if you don't watch the whole video, give us a like. It helps. It encourages us. It feeds the algorithm. So do want to say that.
And just to add on that, I'm actually really curious which apps, if people listening to the podcast or people listening on YouTube, but if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you want to leave a 5-star review, that would be awesome. Not just for the review, but just to know where people are listening. Yeah. On Fountain, we get some awesome people sending us tips, zaps once in a while. So that's cool.
Yeah. You know, it's cool because I think we finally we're catching traction. So for the past 6 months, we've basically been doing this podcast with no one listening. And so now we're starting to get people engaging, and it's great. We welcome as many questions as you guys have. It helps us, create content that to speak about here on this podcast. And it's always like I said, it's always encouraging to see that.
Definitely. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. This is how we build in El Salvador, and we'll see you in the comments section. See you next week.
Peace.